Well, twice a year we have to change our clocks, at least in Illinois. And some of you, you enjoy it. Others, you're pulling your hair out. So I know for me, I hate losing an hour of sleep, but I love gaining an hour of sleep. It really makes a difference whenever you have to get up at 3 o'clock every morning to prepare for a 3-hour morning show. Stay informed, stay connected with WMAY on 92.7, 94.7, and 970 AM. Right now, it's 7:12 in the capital city, Central Time. Are we in daylight saving time or are we in standard time? What's happening here? To join us, who can help us understand how we got to this point and what could possibly happen moving forward, is JP. He is a researcher and also the founder of a group called Save Standard Time. Jay, thanks for taking time with us here on the WMAY Morning News Feed. It's 7:12 in Illinois. You're over on the West Coast in California. What time is it there?
Oh, let's see. It's 5 o'clock in the morning Pacific Daylight Time, which means it's 4 o'clock Pacific Standard Time.
So you have clocks showing you the different times if it was still just standard time?
Yes, I keep my analog clocks on standard year-round.
So tell me, I guess, how did we get here? Before we talk about which direction that you're advocating Illinois go, or I guess the entire country go, how did we get to where we are now in this country where it's not just the time zones, right? Because we are in Central Time here, and there's Mountain Time and Pacific Time and so on. But we shift that up even more with changing the clocks every 6 months. When did that start and why?
It's true. It makes it unnecessarily confusing to do conversions. It would be much simpler if we all were on standard year-round. It was proposed as a scheme to save energy. In reality, it was a way to make money. The idea is if we could force people to get up earlier, maybe they would go to bed earlier and they wouldn't run their lights at night. The fact of the matter is you get up earlier in the morning, you stay up just as late at night, but you're more likely to go shopping. So we have the Chambers of Commerce and the Gulf lobbyists pushing for these daylight saving ideas. And we did it during wartime. We did it during the oil crisis. It was 6 months. They extended it to 7. Now it's 8 months, and now they're trying to push it to be 12 months long.
So that is kind of a brief history of sorts of why we have these time changes, but you're advocating for just not changing the clocks anymore and just sticking with standard time. Why standard time?
Yes. Well, standard time is the actual time. I'm a software engineer. I'm also an amateur astronomer, and I know that time is intended to be a measurement of the sun's position in the sky, the real solar time. Standard time is an approximation of that to make it practical on a global scale, since we could travel and move about the Earth so much more quickly than we did a century ago. So standard time is the closest we can get to the real time and still be running a global society. It's entrained in our living cells through our circadian rhythm. Our body clock knows what time it actually is. And if we're pretending that it's a different time, it puts us out of sync with our body, and that can lead to sleep deprivation, lack of alertness. It hurts our school performance and productivity, and it can eventually lead to chronic diseases, increases in cancer, stroke, heart attack, diabetes, and the like.
So I know several people who live in different parts of the country, and they do work for, they cover news for the entire country, right? And they may look at different states like Arizona and Illinois, and they get twisted up all kinds of crazy, especially when they may live in an area that doesn't recognize this time change. So talk about the national significance of that and how we have pockets of places that don't adhere to this at all, or the other places that may have a community cut up into two that are focusing on one time versus another. How much of a problem is that across the country?
Well, I see it a lot when people say this event is at such and such EST, and I know right now we're in the summer half of the year, so they really mean EDT. Eastern Standard Time, Eastern Daylight Time. In Illinois, you have CDT and CST and so forth.
I'm already confused.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
In the mountain zone, Arizona, the state of Arizona stays on Mountain Standard year-round, whereas the rest of that stripe of a time zone, they're on Mountain Daylight Time in the summer half of the year. And then people will point out to me the exception of the Navajo Nation within the state of Arizona will change their clocks as well. So there's a lot of weirdness about it. Hawaii also stays on Standard Time year-round, and the territories stay on Standard Time year-round, and most of the world stays on Standard Time year-round.
Not the United States, though. I mean, we still use feet and inches and not the metric system. So how likely do you think it is that this is going to change, even, not just nationally, but even here in Illinois? Because we do have competing measures. One would make it daylight saving time permanently. Another, which you're advocating for, would make standard time permanently. How does this process work if a state wants to choose one or the other?
Yes, Illinois is interesting. You actually have 7 bills there, 2 for standard and the other 5 for permanent daylight time. In 1966, prior to 66, states and even cities could set their own clocks, and it was chaos. So in 1966, Congress finally passed the Uniform Time Act that said you need to stick to your standard time. If you want to advance to daylight, you can do it, but only on the specified dates. So most states do that. Arizona and Hawaii opt out of DST. Any state can opt out of DST and just keep their clocks on standard year-round. The problem is we have the lobbyists pushing hard for permanent daylight time instead, which is forbidden by federal law, but they're pushing it hard in many states. In a few states, they've already passed it, but thankfully it's forbidden by federal law. If we went to permanent daylight time, it would be terrible in the winter. It'd be forcing you to go to work or school in the dark for a quarter of the year for about 3 months. So if you want to go to standard time instead, you can do that. It's pre-approved by federal law, and it doesn't force you out of bed in the dark for half the year.
So ultimately, standard time would what would that mean for the peak of summer for when the sun goes down? What time would that ultimately be? If it was standard time only.
If it was standard time, well, let's see. Give me a city. You're in Springfield, right?
Yeah, Central Illinois.
You're right now. Your sun goes down around 8 o'clock in the summer. It would be going down. Let's see. No, I'm looking at sunrise. Sorry. Your latest sunset is 8:30 in the summer, so that would become 7:30 in the summer.
I don't mind that. I'll say that right now, because as early as I get up, one of the things that kind of, it really does wear at me is I got to go to bed at 7:30, 8 o'clock, and I look outside and it's still sunny out. That messes with me. I'm not going to lie. All right, so
no, it's true, and it's especially hard on children as well. You're trying to get your kids to go to bed in the dark, and then you would be forcing them to not just get up and go, not just wake up in the dark, but also go to school in the dark. And it's terrible for kids. It's terrible for the working class who need to be at work at 8 o'clock in the morning. Daylight time is not a good idea. We should be on standard time year-round.
What about those who say, you know what, this is what we're doing now is a good compromise between the two?
Yes, I've heard that as well, and I sympathize with that, and I would much rather be with the status quo than on permanent daylight time. The fact is, though, that when we change clocks, that causes an acute harm. You're suddenly forcing people to get out of bed in the dark, and during that week of the change in March, we see the spike in traffic accidents and the spike in heart attacks, and it's an unnecessary harm to health and safety.
JP, he is with Save Standard Time, talking about possibility of changing some time, and time's running out for the state legislature to pass things with simple majorities. That's going to be May 31st here in Illinois when they have to advance something. So we'll keep an eye and see what happens here with the 7 different proposals at the State House. Jay, if people have more looking for more information about Save Standard Time, where can they find that?
We're on our website at SaveStandardTime.com. We're on Twitter at Save Standard. We're also on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and several others.
JP, he's with Save Standard Time. Greatly appreciate you waking up so early in the morning over on the West Coast to join me here on WMAY. And maybe we connect soon as we see if this thing progresses, all right?
All right. It's a pleasure talking. Thank you much.